when I got orders to, I was at Harvard University attending a communications school where I was introduced to radio and visual signals that the Navy uses, cryptographic work, codes and ciphers and all that stuff, where I was introduced to all that, and actually had an opportunity to practice a lot of that in classwork. And then around the end of June, I received orders, everybody did in the school, to proceed from there to the various assignments. And I went with a bunch of other officers to I was assigned to the 7th Fleet.
Would this been about 42?
Huh?
42? 1942, is that when this would have been?
This would have been gosh.
Pearl Harbor was 1941, December.
It was around 44.
44, okay.
44. And I received orders to proceed and report to the 7th Fleet. Didn't know where they were, but by reporting various points along the way, I finally spent about 3 weeks waiting for transportation in San Francisco. And I was finally assigned to go aboard the transport ship USS John Pope. I think that was the name of it, for transportation, and which I did along with a whole bunch of other replacements for men in the war who were coming home. And that's, there must have been thousands of troops, Army, Navy, on that ship. The accommodations were less than satisfactory. We had rooms where we had 12 men sleeping in one room, and the bunks were, there was about a foot between each bunk, top and bottom. It was pretty crowded and miserable, but it got us there.
How long?
Took us 3 weeks to go from San Francisco to Milne Bay, New Guinea.
Did you ever have port during that 3 weeks?
Have what?
Did you ever go into port during those 3 weeks, or were you
No,
at sea the whole time?
No, straight from San Francisco, straight to Milne Bay, New Guinea.
3 weeks.
Took 3 weeks because we had to zigzag all the way. And that to possibly avoid being detected by a Japanese submarine. So we made it okay without any incident. Then from there, we stayed in Milne Bay for this bunch of naval officers I was traveling with. We stayed there until, for about 2 weeks in Milne Bay. And then we got air transportation that flew us up to Hollandia, New Guinea, where we reported into the 7th Fleet headquarters. And what was next? And while there, on the bulletin board in the communications room, they would always have a choice of duties that you could sign your name to and go. And if they selected, then your duty would be changed. And one day they had a notice to want a bunch of officers to go aboard the Admiral's flagship. And I thought, well, that's why I came in the Navy, was to be on board ship. So I signed up and was selected to go aboard the flagship USS Wasatch. And within about a week or so time, we received orders then to go aboard the ship. Well, it was almost immediately we went aboard the ship, which was anchored in Hollandia, New Guinea, and other ships by the hundreds were anchored in the same anchorage. A huge armada of ships getting ready to invade the Philippine Islands. And I was in that task force that did that, which we did. And there were all manner of ships, all combat ships, battleships, cruisers, aircraft carriers, everything, hundreds of ships to make up that task force. And we invaded, then we invaded at Tacloban, Leyte, where with the Army troops went ashore and invaded the country as promised by General MacArthur, who was in overall command of that force.
And you were on the flagship with the admiral?
Yeah,
Who was the admiral?
Thomas C. Kincaid, a vice admiral of the U.S. Navy. And he served on, he was on General MacArthur's immediate staff. General MacArthur had under his command General Walter Kruger, who was the commanding general of the 6th Army, and General Robert Eichelberger, who commanded the, let's see if I can pull that out of my hat. The other Army Corps that invaded, and in reading biographies after the war, I discovered that both Kruger and Eichelberger were Germans. Eichelberger was born and raised in Wisconsin, of German parentage, and Kruger was born and raised in Germany, in the Prussian area, where it was customary for military people to follow that career. And I don't know when or they came and absorbed into the United States Army, but they were the finest field commanders that MacArthur had at that time.
Had Kruger been trained in Germany? Had he been in the military there before moving to the United States?
Oh yeah.
Because he came from a military family.
Back in the 30s, and then they emigrated, or Eichelberger always lived in Wisconsin. Kruger emigrated to the United States and became a citizen back probably in the early 30s, and went into the Army and followed that career, and he was a top general. So those were his two Army commanders that invaded in